Hey guys, today's story is about an Elder Scrolls game. Rather recently, I was invited to an Elder Scrolls D&D game. It was D&D 5e, but with Elder Scroll races, lore, birth signs, feats, and class tweaks to be a little bit more like the Elder Scroll classes. And since I'm a fan of the video games, I was super excited. I typically play an Argonian cleric type of character, who follows the goddess Mara, and I was looking forward to making that build in this game. And for those of you who don't know the lore very well, it's actually odd for an Argonian to worship any god but the Hist. However, I didn't know about that until well into the Skyrim years, despite keeping my guy around since Daggerfall. But I just made up an excuse that, since my guy was born outside of Argonia, he just had a human soul that he received naturally, since he never drank his sap. And for the GM of this tabletop game, this was acceptable since I said that my guy was born in the marshy central areas of the Iliac Bay. Fast forwarding to the game time, I showed up wearing an awesome amulet of Mara that I got a while ago, which was made out of brass and painted rather well. And I sat down to play, and introduced my character as a healer in the ash-affected regions of Morrowind, in the years following the explosion of Red Mountain. And for those that are not initiated, imagine a supervolcano the size of a small country going off. Immediately, one of the players, who I will call Redoran due to being a Dunmer warrior, began looking down on me for not being an Argonian in chains. And another player, who I'll call Telvanni, which was a Dunmer sorceress, was actually intrigued by the idea of my character, an Argonian who didn't follow the Hist. Over time, there was a bit of Redoran being annoyed by having a free Argonian in the party, and Telvanni would inquire about my character's history with the benevolence of Mara and general theological stuff. In between sessions, Telvanni and I would talk about in real-life theological practices and schisms, since we both found historical practices and evolution of religion to be pretty interesting. Generally, the rest of the party was okay with my guy, despite being an Argonian, in a party that was 99% Dunmer. However, Redoran grew more annoyed with my character for basically being a good person and not some knuckle-dragging savage tribal. You know, like all Argonians are supposed to be, as well as worshipping a god that Argonians aren't supposed to worship. One day, after several sessions working with the Imperial Temple to heal Imperial loyalists, Mara herself spoke to my character and gave him 2 whole spell slots so he could finish healing all the people injured in a raid that he accidentally caused by giving out information to Ashlander raiders. This eventually boiled out of character into him asking the GM why he was letting such a snowflake into his game. I was playing an Argonian, but wasn't adhering to the lore. The lore that is of a people, from a place, where even the writers themselves say that there's a lot of unknown, mysterious things going on. And I wanted to worship a god that shouldn't even acknowledge my people's existence. And now, the plot of the game was revolving around my snowflakey faith. The amulet of Mara I was wearing in real life was just proof I was trying to be special by picking a weird god that normal players don't pick. This went from weird to terrible when Telvanni interjected on my behalf, and he accused Redoran of being an actual Nazi by trying to tell a Jewish man what he can and cannot believe in. And I'm called a snowflake again for trying to use my religion as an excuse, which isn't because of anything I said, or even reflective of my actual religion, just my familial background. Telvanni fired back with some more about him being a Nazi, trying to control what I can play, and again, while I'm just sitting there quietly. This pretty quickly just evolved into your typical SJW, arguing between Telvanni and Redoran, and eventually the GM intervened and told them to knock it off, and the Redoran not being invited back since he was interrupting the game and clearly had an issue with my character that no one else did. Telvanni was given a stern talking to about arguing with other players, but was allowed to stay. Meanwhile, I felt bad because this whole argument was over and about me, and I felt like my PC being snowflakey ruined the game. Thankfully, the GM called me a silly net herder and told me that he thought my character was cool, and the game went on for a few more sessions after this, before we managed to get an exodus going into Skyrim. To add to this, some people seem to be getting the wrong idea about why Telvanni got a finger wagging when all of the bad was Redoran's fault. And to be clear, the problem was Telvanni jumping in and standing up for me, when both I and the GM were sitting right there, and neither being able to respond to Redoran's complaint about my snowflakey moment with Mara before Telvanni jumped in. Additionally, Redoran never said anything bigoted or racist to me out of character. He just thought that my character was annoying, and that I was kind of weird for viewing Mara as my favorite divine. But the racism stuff was an accusation that Telvanni threw at him, leading to the pointless, devolving argument that followed. And that's why, when Redoran got booted for not liking my guy and being a stick in the mud about lore, which I am now informed that he wasn't even correct about, Telvanni was told to basically just chill, and still kept playing with us. I don't need to be patronized, and the GM would have handled it himself, calmly, like he did once he could get a word in edgewise. Well guys, like the OP said at the ending there, the Redoran wasn't even correct on Argonians not really worshipping other gods. In Skyrim, there's a couple of Argonians who got married in a Temple of Mara, and while having in-character racism, such as a Dunmer not liking an Argonian, that makes sense. But there's absolutely no reason to be bringing that into real life. If you have an issue with a player, you bring it up to the DM, or you can try to talk to the player, rather than just being a jerk. And while I can kind of see what the Redoran would have an issue with on him wearing an amulet of Mara, and that may seeming a little bit snowflakey, this is still a role-playing game, and if he's not really harming you, and he wants to do that to enjoy the game further, there's no reason to really have an issue with that. I've known a few people that like to dress up as their characters and sit at the D&D table and roleplay in character with the outfit and whatnot. But, at least in the end, the problem player was ejected from this game, and they were able to enjoy their campaign for a while longer. And on account of the Telvanni defending the OP, he should have obviously not gotten up and started arguing with the Redoran in this particular case, especially devolving into just some stupid little argument accusing him of being a bigot and whatnot because the OP is apparently Jewish. That's a little bit of a yikes. But, in any case, that's the end of this one. I hope you enjoyed the story, and, as always, have a good one.